So here's my story about Eric Roach, the guitarist who completely changed my life and had a massive effect on my career. You may never have heard of Eric Roach, but that's why I'm here. I want to spread new light onto his work because he is somebody that every guitarist, I believe, should go and check out. Eric taught me 20 years ago when I was just 18, when I was studying in Guildford at the Academy of Contemporary Music. I had left home for the very first time. I was super excited, so off I drove to Guildford a week before the course, out in the lovely leafy hills of Surrey. Little did I know that my whole approach to the guitar was going to change so much when I would hear Eric's music for the very first time. Eric was an amazing guitar player, composer, arranger, performer and teacher. I go down to Guildford a week or so before my course starts and I settle into where I'm living and I start meeting some new people. One day I go over to this guy's house and we're just hanging around. There's a few of us, we're listening to music. Somebody puts this CD on, back in the day when it was an actual CD, and this track came on, acoustic guitar, and I couldn't quite figure out what was going on. It sounded to me like there was two guitarists and there was maybe a percussionist and there was lots of things going on. There was a bass line, there was harmony, there was melody and there was rhythm aspects to this piece. I was thinking, oh, this is great, this is really cool, you know, who are these guys? And this new friend of mine said, well, no, this isn't. This is one person, and this is one guitar. And by the way, this is the person that's going to be teaching you guitar next week at college. I was like, wow, okay, I couldn't get my head around this. This really excited me, like how this one person could create all these sounds at once, and how did they do it? And I was going to be taught by him. Okay, cool. So a week later, we are all together, whole year, must have been 100 kids, all in a big lecture room, and we're waiting for our first theory lesson that was going to be taught by this guy called Eric Roach, who was the head of guitar. Eric walks in and had a guitar case that was leathered with Ryanair stickers. This guy had obviously been travelling around the place a lot with his guitar, and he just got up and sort of calmly, quietly, started the lesson, and he had a very sort of chilled vibe about him. He opened up his guitar and all his strings were completely slackened. They were, completely loose, and this is something you've got to do when you travel on aeroplanes. And so he starts tuning up his strings, and it wasn't going the usual way to my ears, He ended up tuning his guitar to an open tuning, a thing called dadgad, which is relatively common, but it turns out that this guy exclusively plays in dadgad. He doesn't play in normal tuning. I also noticed something strange about his hands, or at least one hand. On his right hand he was wearing fake fingernails, which I was to find out later on that they were to help his actual playing. And of course, yes, that is something I've adopted, and for like nearly 20 years now, on and off, I've been wearing fake women's fingernails on my hand, but it makes the guitar sound incredible and gives you great power. But we hadn't heard him play the guitar, that's really where we were trying to get to. So he put on a concert in Guildford. Me and my flat housemates, Kirk and HP, we went down to this tiny little beautiful old English pub which had a backroom venue, and there must have been like maybe 150 students in there or something like that. Eric comes on stage not wearing any shoes. He's got a massive PA set up, and he's just got one acoustic guitar. He's got incense burning, and we're like, okay, this is going to be interesting. And he just got up there and leathered the guitar for an hour and a half, playing big, stomping, rhythm-based tracks, and then playing beautiful, slow ballads. He had an amazing sense of dynamics. He certainly had an amazing sense of timing and rhythm. And it was just great. It was a great gig. We all loved it. We were really inspired by it. I was certainly, probably more than anybody. So one day we're in the house in Guildford, me and my housemates, and my housemate Owen comes out of his room with this guitar magazine, right? And it turns out that Eric was a columnist in this magazine every single month. He was a contributor, a journalist. He would teach you a different style or a different piece and write up about it and write out all the transcriptions for it. And this would be accompanied by a CD which you could listen to. It's all quite antiquated now when you think about it. Anyway, Owen came out with this guitar magazine, and it had this piece by this other incredible guitarist called Thomas Leeb, who is a great friend of Eric. Eric had transcribed this incredible piece called A Cascaro, and I've got this magazine here. Owen, I apologise. For 20 years now, I have still got this magazine that you got that day out for me, and I spent about a month with this magazine religiously trying to learn this piece. We lived in this really cute house just down the road from the ACM. It was really cool. The attic had this loft space that we made into a rehearsal room. We put a drum kit up there. We had guitar amps up there. Like, we were rehearsing up there together. It was brilliant, but it was really loud. The house down there with the green, you see that house? They complained about the noise. The complaints went that far down the street. We were pretty loud. I must have spent, as I say, a month up there every day going through this transcription, trying to learn the techniques. We're talking slapped harmonics, we're talking kick drum sounds, snare drum sounds, we're talking two hands playing on the neck together, we're talking artificial harmonics, all sorts of crazy things that I'd never ever attempted in my life, nor had I ever seen these things in my life. And this is completely genuine. I've just realised this today. Here's a photograph of me up in that attic practicing. And what I didn't realise was right there, that's the magazine open at that page. I love it. It took me such a long time to get this piece together. And finally, when I kind of half had it down, we ended up doing a gig, me and my housemates, back at the Star, this little venue in the back room, and we threw together some covers and played a few things. Kirk was on a conga, and I got up at the end of this little mini set and played this piece by myself, just me and an acoustic guitar, fingerstyle, all these mad techniques, and it was absolutely terrible. It went so badly, but I got through it, and I'd gotten the bug for it. I had certainly been so inspired by the whole process that I thought, God, this is something I really want to do more. So I went and learnt way more from Eric, and I looked any magazines that I could find that he had written these sort of kind of pieces in. I went and learnt music of his own. There was other tunes by Thomas Leeb, things by Preston Reed, Tommy Emmanuel, all these incredible guitar players. So I hunted around for these magazines and I started to learn all of those pieces, and I wanted to be a solo acoustic guitar player. I had no interest in being in a band. I wanted to create all those sounds and all those textures and all of that stuff just by myself. So the year course at ACM started and it finished, and it was great and it was really cool. It was incredible to see all the guitar teachers that we had, of which there must have been, I don't know, 7 or 8 or 9 different guitar teachers that we had throughout that year. They were all incredible players, but they all had this fantastic respect for Eric. And if you ever mentioned Eric's name, I specifically remember Eric's name coming up during one of Jamie Humphrey's lessons, who's an incredible guitar player and was one of the tutors at that time. And we mentioned his name, and straight away, massive smile just comes to Jamie's face, you know. And that was the same with everybody. Whenever you mention Eric's name to anybody that knew Eric, they will smile, I guarantee you. Because he was just such a lovely guy, because he was funny, because he was just good crack. But at the same time, all these tutors, they had this incredible respect for him because he could really play. I mean, really play. And there was this real dignified sort of respect for him amongst all his peers, which was incredible. So, as I say, after this year had been and gone, I then moved away for a little while. I moved away to Scandinavia for a year or so, and I wasn't really doing much music. But then when I came back, I wanted to get really heavily involved in it again, and I'd really missed doing it. And so I went out and started playing my guitar as much as I could, and I went and did auditions for artists who had no means of paying. I went and played gigs for free. I went and played gigs for meals, and you know, for years really. I was doing that for a long time. Now, a lot of these artists were all up and coming And more often than not, they didn't actually have enough material to play a sort of full-length show. And so because they knew that I could play this kind of acoustic guitar style that I'd learned from Eric, with that incorporated rhythms and beats and these sort of unorthodox techniques, they sort of would give me some stage time in their slots. So many times I would be thrown out front of stage while the rest of the band sort of take 5 minutes, and I'd basically go and play Eric. I'd go and play a piece of his or amalgamation of some of his work or bits that I had kind of thrown in. And I got great responses. It was incredible. People really enjoyed it. It's a real crowd pleaser. Nothing to do with me. I was just conveying it across, you know. And I got a lot of gigs from that. So many gigs came from me doing those little slots. So many people would come up to me afterwards and say, wow, that was really cool. We've never seen anything like that, because nobody had seen things like that. I hadn't seen things like that. And so it was wonderful. It really helped me in my career. But of course, it wasn't all down to me at all. I was just conveying this wonderful music and these techniques that I'd learned from Eric. You know, I ended up having some amazing times and traveling all over the world, playing the guitar, playing for some really well-known artists and loads of artists you've never heard of, and you know, had a half-decent career doing that. And I really feel that I was put in so many of these positions because I was the guy that could do this guitar stuff that I'd learned and been inspired from Eric. So at this point, the internet is really in its infancy. We're talking sort of early 2000s. And I was traveling around a lot doing music, and it was very hard to sort of keep in touch with people back in those days. Email was just sort of coming to the fore. People were setting up their accounts, and I didn't have any contact with Eric. But he had a website. He had a really cool website, and not many people did, so I could keep up to date with his news and his gigs and his photographs through that. And so whenever I was near a computer and I thought of it, by the way, not everyone had laptops, and there certainly weren't any sort of computer type phones in those days, but whenever I was near a computer and I got onto the internet, I would check out Eric's site and just get his latest news. He had a diary on there where he would keep people up to date with his latest news and bits and pieces. And I found out one day that he wasn't well, that he was having treatment for cancer, and that, you know, he was just hoping for everybody's best wishes, which was a bit of a shock, because to put this into perspective, Eric was only mid-30s at that point. And anyway, I followed his diary updates, and it seemed like he was doing good after a while. He had had some treatment, and he was back on the mend, and he was back out doing gigs. And Eric had an amazing career playing gigs. I mean, Eric went all over the world and toured tirelessly, playing solo acoustic guitar shows, and played with some of the most incredible other players as well. And so it seemed like he was back on the mend, but then tragically things changed, and unfortunately Eric didn't get completely better, and he passed away in, I think it was 2006. And he was only 37 years of age, and he left behind a young family and an incredible career. So I had this story with him, and I'd learnt so much from him, and what I'd learnt from him had taken me so far and given me so much, but I had never gotten to thank him or show my appreciation, or he would have never have known. And so it's been incredibly sad for years and years and years that was the case. A couple of years ago, in 2018, I got a phone call from my friend Ace, who's the guitarist from a band called Skunk Anansie, and Ace works really closely with the ACM. Remember the college that I met Eric at? Well, Ace works really closely with those guys, and called me up one day and said, "Listen, Damien, do you do any teaching?" I said, yeah, I suppose I can. He said, well, look, we need some lecturers, some tutors to do some stuff at the music university. You know, do you want to come down and see if it works out? Anyway, I went down, and it did kind of work out, and it was so strange being there, back in the same building, the same corridors, and it looks exactly the same. But Eric wasn't there. And the last time I had been there, it was when I was learning from Eric, and it was all really bizarre. And I was in there just like 1 or 2 days a week. And for like a long time, 6 months, it was really difficult, like emotionally, it was really strange. And then one day I realised that I was 37,
and I was teaching at ACM, and I just had a baby that year. There was kind of like this parallel thing going on. It just got me thinking. And then one day a really good friend of mine, Mike King, said to me, he said, Damien, you know, these lovely acoustic guitar pieces that you've played for 20 years, that we always hear you play every now and again, why don't you record any of them? You've never recorded any of them. Why don't you put them down? I'd never thought of recording them for a second before Mike mentioned that. But then when he did, I thought, well, it would be really nice to actually document these things, because as you can hopefully tell, these things really helped me. It helped me become a better guitar player. It helped me get better gigs. It helped me in all sorts of scenarios. It helped me travel all over the world. And I thought maybe I could do this, and how could I frame it? I could frame it in such a positive way to shine fresh light back onto this wonderful work of Eric's, to shine fresh light back onto Eric's own recordings, where you can go and still buy his albums now. He had 3 amazing albums. He had an amazing book out. Eric passed away over 15 years ago. You know, YouTube and camera quality and all those sort of things, they weren't at the standards that we're at now. And there's very little stuff on Eric on YouTube or out there. He had an amazing DVD that was recorded in Guildford at the Electric Theatre. I've got a copy, it's awesome. You can still buy it now. But I thought I'm going to reinterpret Eric's wonderful work and put it out so that people young and old can revisit and find Eric's work for the first time and find out about this incredible guitar player so that they can be as inspired as I have been. I went to some beautiful studios to record some of these pieces, the first of which I went to Pete Townsend's studio, which is on a beautiful old Dutch barge in the middle of central London, and brought along an amazing videographer called John Kai, who did a load of filming for me. I then went to my friend Dom Morley's studio out in Oxfordshire, a beautiful studio in a barn where Dom creates the most amazing soundscapes and produces and mix engineers all sorts of projects. He's even got a Grammy on the shelf. Big shout out to John Astley, who's been mastering all this stuff. John has been a mastering engineer for decades. He has done loads of the Who's back catalogue, artists after artists. So I'm really proud of how well the stuff has come out. By far the weakest chain in this link is me and my shoddy playing, but hey, I've really enjoyed it. I really hope that you guys get to see all these videos and enjoy it and discover Eric's stuff for yourselves. I'm always going to link all his stuff in those videos. So go and check out his website, go and check out his videos on YouTube, go and buy his albums on Bandcamp. The guy was amazing, and I'm so honoured and proud to have learned underneath him. The last time I went to see Tommy Emmanuel play live, and Tommy is an incredible acoustic guitar player. I hung around after the show because he was signing a few things for people, and he's very nice and gracious like that. And anyway, I thought I just wanted to say hello to him. So I waited and I went up to say, "Hi Tommy, how you doing?" I was an old student of Eric Roach's. Tommy turned around and he just said, "You lucky guy." And I think that sums up exactly the sentiment that people had for Eric.